Greetings and welcome to my channel. Today I have another moment of sanctuary, one of the stories where I have seen the sacred encounter the ordinary. And the story today is actually the first year that there were two mission short-term trips. One was to Peru, because my senior high felt really encouraged and called to go on this mission that they had heard about at a conference that we had been at. And my middle schoolers came to me, specifically Miss Jenny, and said, why can't the middle schoolers go on missions? And I hadn't really thought about it. I was just kind of thinking that it was a privilege with age kind of situation. And I knew that there were some trips that middle schoolers were equipped and able to do. So I said, sure, we will do another trip that middle schoolers can go on as well. So the trip to Peru was 1 week, and we got back on a Sunday evening, and that Friday night we left to go to Atlanta. And I decided that on that trip we would have a middle schooler and a senior high, and then an adult that kind of oversaw a couple of the pairs, and these would be our little small groups, and we would have like a mentoring situation, which turned out to be lovely. So on the Peru trip, there was a very different culture. So this is another story about cultural learnings. And this one is a culture of theology, or the study of God, or the perceptions of how we live out our faith of belief. And I do want to note that my stories are perspectives of the Christian understanding of faith. However, there's many varieties even within that. And I hope you hear that all cultures and all faiths and all of these things that I encounter all teach me things and all help me to grow and to become, I think, a better me. So if you have other thoughts, that would be encouraged as well. So on this particular trip, the organization we went to Peru with was a very evangelical, what I would term a fundamental kind of black and white interpretation of the Bible, and therefore just a little more strict. Nothing wrong with any of this, but being from the mainline denominations, it wasn't a lot of our practices to interpret the scriptures exactly how they did. But we were in their culture and we were fine with that. And one of the interesting things that my youth came to me and said, what's going on, was the rule that boys and girls weren't even allowed to sit together. So if you had a plane ticket, or you had on the bus, certainly where you had a lot of control, if there was a boy and a girl sitting next to each other, they needed to move, or I needed to be in between them, or whatever the situation was, which was pretty extreme for my youth because that's not something that we practiced. But again, we were in that culture, so we honored it. My youth came to terms with it and decided it didn't really hurt them to follow this rule, and we adapted to the culture and went about this very conservative and proper way, and it became a very normal, comfortable way of life for the couple weeks that we spent with them in Peru. 1 week later, we got back on a Sunday night. On that Friday, we went with the middle schoolers and we went to Atlanta, and we went with an organization that was very much more accustomed to our mainline denomination and had a lot of rules that were much more lax. In fact, I'm sitting there discussing some business with the other adult leaders, and a handful of my youth, headed up by the youth who had just been with me in Peru, came up and said, Kristen, you've got to do something. There are boys in the girls' bedroom. Well, there was no real rule against this in this new place, but I just kind of started laughing to myself because we went from we're upset because we can't sit next to the boys on the bus to we've got a crisis because we now have the boys in the girls' bedroom, which we did have to work with other churches and kind of come to some kind of understanding about protocol so that privacy could be respected and safety and all those kind of policies could be in place and still respect the culture that was there. Neither of them were wrong. They were both fine, but it was a steep contrast between the 2 weeks. And there were several other things that went on in a very powerful way. And I want to continue to share those stories with you. But today I just wanted to plant this seed about differences in people's faith beliefs. That even if it's a completely different belief system altogether, even if somebody has no belief system, that these kind of conversations, or just living into each other's culture, just respecting it, saying, you know what, it's not against me, so I will honor your belief, or I will at least hear the stories of your belief and ponder them, or see how that fits in, or what the goodness is, brings about this kind of deeper understanding about even who we are, about who we are as a people and a group. And I find this a sacred ground that we get to walk on. So I encourage you to think about these things and explore these things in your own life. Share them with myself here in the comments, or you can always email me. It's MomentsofSanctuary@gmail.com. And I look forward to one of my favorite stories on this culture contrast that I will be sharing next week. So I hope you will hit subscribe if you haven't already. Come along on this journey, and we will continue looking at these stories of sacredness. May you too remember this day that you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and may you lean into experiencing your own moments of sanctuary. Have a blessed day.